In this video, I want to take a trip down memory lane and revisit Fortnite's worst collaboration items ever. These are items that made appearances in public battle royale and are marked as official collaborations by Epic Games themselves. That's all I've got for this intro. If you guys do go on to enjoy this video, consider leaving it a like using code TYFRYZ in the Fortnite item shop and hitting that subscribe button because we are almost at 100,000 subscribers. And when I hit that milestone, I'm dropping the biggest ranking video that the Fortnite community has ever seen. But with that all being said, let's get into the worst collab items in Fortnite history. Firstly, we begin in Chapter 5, Season 3, which, that season had a lot of bad things, but the ship in a bottle as part of the Pirates of the Caribbean collab finds its way on this list today. Unfortunately, the ship in a bottle, while being really cool actually, right? Like, it's just genuinely a sick item. It is not practical, and it is not good at all. It's essentially like a moving junk rift, and you've got to remember, right? We're talking about Chapter 5, Season 3, where you've got mobility items like, well, cars, the Nitro Fist, the Magneto Gauntlets, and even Shockwaves and stuff like that. It's just so easy to avoid taking damage from this item, and on the contrary, it's very hard to actually deal damage using this item. It's an item that also was barely in the game just for a few weeks, less than a month actually. So if you didn't get to use it, well, maybe that's a good thing, because yeah, I mean, let's be honest, you probably weren't going to kill anybody with it anyways. Next is a collab item that I guarantee you that you forgot about. It's the Crypto Treat from Chapter 6, Season 3. I'm telling you, this is going to be one of the most forgotten items in Fortnite history. We are going to look back on Chapter 6, Season 3, 2, 3, 4 years from now and be like, the Crypto Treat, what was that? And that's because this thing was genuinely pretty horrible. It was just a junk rift. And again, you've got to remember, we're talking about Chapter 6, Season 3, and I'm sure you guys do remember it was just a couple months ago. It's one of the best mobility seasons we've ever seen, right? You've got Robin's Grappler, the Mist Form, you've got Shockwave Grenades, you've got the Base Boost, you got the, Surf Cube thingy. It's just like no one is ever going to get hit by a junk rift. There's just too much mobility in the game, right? Junk rifts were good in, Season X in Chapter 1 when mobility wasn't out of control yet, but you look at Chapter 6, Season 3, there's just so much mobility. The Crypto Treat got almost zero usage. Like, I don't think I've ever killed anybody using the Crypto Treat. I'm sure some of you guys, even though it was just in the game, probably forgot it existed, and I think this definitely deserves a spot on this list. It's criminally underwhelming. Although I love Crypto, he's an awesome character. His item, unfortunately, just kind of sucks. It's another example of a collaboration character that I absolutely love, but they destroyed his item. It is Black Panther's kinetic armor from Chapter 2, Season 4. The item is really cool as an idea, but you think about Chapter 2, Season 4, I mean, you're absolutely loaded on those mythic superpowers. Were you ever going to take this one? Not really, right? And of course, in case you don't know, its ability was essentially when you would take damage, you would absorb that damage, and then whenever someone got close, you could then push that damage back out onto somebody else, right? The gameplay will show what I'm talking about. You will also take slightly less damage when you are in that kind of shockwave ability. And again, right, it's a cool idea, but then when it comes to actually using it, it's just very difficult to be effective with it. And again, I would go as far as to say it's probably the worst superpower we ever got. And so naturally, that means it's got to find its way onto this list today. Next, we've got a plethora of items, and it's just going to be these stealth items. That's Mysterio's Stealth Medallion, that's Predator's Cloaking Device, and the EMP Stealth Camo. While yes, they are all slightly different, and some have certain abilities, of course, like the EMP Stealth Camo, which will send out a little EMP blast. They're all really meant to do this same thing, and that's kind of become invisible, that kind of active camo ability, which we all know, for the most part, unless it's done right, it sucks. And it wasn't done right on any three of these items. I especially remember Predator's Cloaking Device just being such a disappointment in Chapter 2, Season 5. I cannot tell you guys how excited I was for the Predator collab, and then they give us the Cloaking Device as his item, and it's just like, this thing sucks. You don't become invisible at all. It's so easy to see somebody. It deactivates half the time when you don't want it to. I just don't understand, and especially when you compare these items to these stealth items that we have today, right? Especially some of those better medallions that will make you cloaked when you are sprint jumping and stuff like that. Those are so good. But these items, all three of them, are completely lacking in my opinion. They're all so forgettable and genuinely are some of the worst collab items we've ever seen. And alright, if it weren't for another item on this list, the cardboard box, yes, somehow that being a collab item from the Solid Snake collab, would be the worst collab item we have ever seen. Why does a mythic cardboard box ever exist? There's no excuses for it, right? They could not have come up with anything, at least a little bit more creative. I don't know if a cardboard box has any type of significance in that franchise. Please, if you do know that, please let me know in the comment section down below. But like, we've had the cardboard box before. It didn't work. Nobody cares about the cardboard box. and then you give it a mythic version as a collaboration, right? Like, what a total joke. It just frustrates me, really. Like, I'm sure you guys can hear it in my voice. It frustrates me because there are so many cool collaborations that Epic Games could be working on and adding really, really cool items into the game. And instead, they waste their time on a mythic cardboard box, right? Like, I don't really know what the point of this ever being in the game is. And again, if it wasn't for the item that I'm actually about to talk about next, it would be the worst collab item of all time. And that item for me is Cash from the Borderlands collab in Season X. Cash, if you didn't know it ever existed, I wouldn't blame you because it didn't have a single use in the game. It was cosmetic only. There was one XP quest that had to do with picking up cash. Other than that, you couldn't use it as like a currency. You couldn't trade it to like an AI for something. It just existed, right? And again, there are other collab items still to be talked about on this video that are very, very bad, but an item that doesn't have a physical use in the game, well, yeah, I mean, that's got to be the worst. Again, this one I kind of more so understand because I'm a little bit more familiar with the Borderlands franchise, and so I understand why Cash exists. But again, it is, at the end of the day, just a purely cosmetic thing. It doesn't do anything. Another pairing of just absolutely atrocious items are the original First Order and E11 blasters, right? Look, I always thought that these weapons were terrible before Galactic Battle, but then once we got the hit scan better versions of these weapons in Galactic Battle, I look back at, the original First Order and E11, and I'm just like, wow, these things were terrible. First of all, I always got to mention they are projectile weapons. Projectile weapons in seasons that were fully hit scan. For a fully auto assault rifle to have a DPS of 130, guys, that's worse than the makeshift assault rifle. There is an argument that this, especially the First Order, the E11 has a DPS about 30 higher, right? So a little bit more passable, but the First Order in particular could potentially be the worst item in Fortnite history. Like, I would hear you out on that. It's so difficult to hit your shot because you're shooting a projectile. And look, I get it, right? These are supposed to be bad, right? It's kind of a nod to these Star Wars guys who, have bad aim. I totally understand. That's a little bit of an Easter egg, and that's cool. I get it. But at the end of the day, we are talking about pure gameplay, right? How good are these things in a match of Fortnite? And unfortunately, they are not good at all. In fact, they're pretty terrible. And when I was thinking about items to be on this list and I was scrolling through the Fortnite wiki, I saw these two and I said, yeah, instantly, they've got to be here. I can't leave them off. And maybe a little bit of a surprising item that you wouldn't have necessarily expected to be here, it is the Paper Bomb Kunai. Of course, the anime collabs are typically done really well, and a lot of those items are very good, right? I think of like the Deku Smash, or even the Straw Doll technique, or Todoroki's Ice Wall, or the Nimbus Cloud, right? These are all really good collab items, but unfortunately, the Paper Bomb Kunai just fell flat on its face. And maybe that was always going to happen, right? We don't have a ton of good grenades in Fortnite history, and nonetheless, collab grenades, we don't really have any actually besides this and like the Thermal Imploder. They are essentially just a copy of, the Batman grenades from Season X, but worse in essentially every single category, right? You can only hold 6 of these, and they only do 35 damage. So that means even if you want to do 100 damage, right, which at the time a normal frag grenade would do, well, you need to hit 3 of these. That's asking a lot. I mean, hitting half of the grenades is a lot, and obviously they're only really going to explode when somebody's close to them anyways, so you don't even necessarily get like the great explosive effect if you were to, use a rocket launcher instead, for example. It sucks that this item is not as good as it could have been, again, like I said, because of so many good anime collaborations that have really been some of the community's most favorite items ever, right? Like, think about ODM gear, think about how good that item is and how much the community loves it, and unfortunately, the Paper Bomb Kunai is just nowhere close to that. And the final item I've got on this list today, it's actually 2 items. It is the Stark and the Mandalorian Jetpack. So let's start with the Stark Jetpack, right? Because again, it was really not in the game for very long in Chapter 2, Season 4, and nobody was carrying this thing, especially when you've got a loaded loot pool like you did in that season. No way were you ever going to waste an inventory slot on what was just a reskinned regular jetpack, right? Even the Fortnite wiki says itself, it is just a reskin version of the regular jetpack. The regular jetpack was not good whatsoever. I mean, maybe in, Season 4 it was, but when you're talking about Chapter 2, Season 4, our 14th Fortnite season, players don't need these jetpacks anymore. And not to mention, you do have a collab jetpack, which is one of the best items legitimately in Fortnite history. That's War Machine's hover jets that totally outshine this thing. And again, it's basically the same thing for the Mandalorian jetpack. Now, I will say, Mandalorian jetpack, especially when it came back in Galactic Battle, was a little bit better, right? You got a little bit more, lateral movement, horizontal movement, instead of it just being straight vertically up and down. It just feels very easy to shoot while you're in the air in a jetpack. And there were a lot of outplays that I watched watched happen in Galactic Battle from people using the Mandalorian jetpack. So while this one is a little bit better than the Stark jetpack, at the end of the day, they are both outshined by War Machine's hover jets. And on a list where we're talking about the worst collab items ever, you've got to remember, there's not a lot of bad collab items, right? For the most part, they're either blatantly overpowered or just very good. So by no stretch of the imagination was this list easy to make, but when I saw the Stark and Mandalorian jetpack, I said, you know what? They've got to be here. Alright folks, I hope you went on to enjoy that quick little video. If you would like to see me talk about the best collaboration items of all time, that list would sure be something because again, like I said earlier, there are so many great collab items. And as I also said earlier, this list was not easy to make because Epic Games typically does a very good job of collaborations, but these items fell through the cracks. So again, I hope you went on to enjoy this video. Please hit that subscribe button. We are so close to hitting that 100,000 subscriber mark, and you're going to want to see the video that I drop when I hit that milestone. So make sure you got noties on as well. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace.